Good morning. Welcome. If you guys can see the mist here on the spiritual shores, the paranormal, ghostly shores of the Hudson River. Good morning, Pavel. My brother man. Good morning, Jahara. Jahara Lee. You know, I've had a weird experience with a goose one day. The great hunker was speaking to me in many ways. And this is one of the 9 Aeonid as well, one of the 9 gods of ancient Egypt. And right now we are at where the telepathic connection is higher than ever. Well, higher than it's been in a very, very long time. And for those that don't know, I am starting a new separate podcast. I'll be also still doing, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio, but I'm starting something called Soul Station Radio. This will be exclusively on Patreon, and I might even air some episodes right here on YouTube as well. We are going to be exploring the mystic spiral of life, our creation, the origins of life in the universe. Wow, look at the mist. You guys can't even see it the way I see it. I'll be having also some guest hosts and guest speakers to join Soul Station Radio as well. And maybe even sometimes we'll air some episodes live on Truth Frequency Radio. But this is going to be a video format with all sorts of diagrams and pictures and stuff to go along with it. And you know, in ancient Etruscan star lore, which is a lot of things I'm going to be discussing, and we're going to go deeper into it. Last night I actually pre-recorded the first beginning of Soul Station Radio. I didn't do it live. I pre-recorded it last night. And we're going to be talking about ancient hereditary star information, if you want to say, stellar information, going back to what we call in ancient Italy the Tanaric mystics. It's spelled T-A-N-N-A-R-R-I-C, Tanaric. I think it's double N's and double R's, the way you would translate it in English. But these are basically the hereditary family lines that hold the information, the genetic encoding of the stellar mysteries, and they have been preserved and passed down and received and awakened in certain ancestors throughout different generations to carry it. And right now on the earth is the most crucial time we are in, is what we're stepping into right now on the planet. And it's only just begun to get this serious. And if you go into all sorts of channeling, telepathic experiences, people come across what they call the 9, right? And this is not just some sort of new age mumbo jumbo or some sort of new age metaphysical creation. This is the most ancient of information, in fact. And we have this going all the way back into Etruscan times and way before. It's been passed down. And there's some very interesting quote unquote myths or mythologies that we need to re-examine. And even in Etruscan and ancient Tuscany and ancient Italian mysticism, we have the nine as well. And I'm going to be going way deeper into it on Soul Station Radio. But we have the nine gods in Italian mysticism that are associated with the nine principles of the universe. And they are called Lupus, Dracos, Canis, Cata, Civetta, Falca, Ursa, Ravin, or Raven, and of course, Cern, or Cern. Yes, Cern. Cern is one of the nine principle of the universe, quote-unquote, gods, or higher dimensional beings that oversee humanity, according to the ancient Italian mystics. And it's even used in some Greek mythology as well. And there's a whole mythos that goes along with the god Cern or Cern. And it literally has to do with the outcome of the planet. And it's really interesting because it has to do with the battle, the forces of light and dark matter, the forces of light and dark. And in some of the tales on the mythos of the god Cern or Cern associated with Italian mysticism is very interesting. There's not a mistake that Cern laboratories, or the Cern, where the Large Hadron Collider is named Cern. I know there's there's words for each letter that's abbreviated in CERN. They have their translation of what it means. But I mean, look at outside the Switzerland. I think it goes for like miles and miles and miles, and even into another country. But look at outside their office. They have the Cern sign that has the 666 symbol within it, and they have the goddess, the Hindu god, doing the cosmic dance. I think it's Shiva, or doing the cosmic dance of destruction and creation right outside, right? And in Italian mysticism and some of the old religion, La Vecchia, the old religion tales, they talk about the gods Cern or Cern and Lupus, right? These are basically the stag and the wolf gods. And they talk about how on the day of spring equinox, they were hunting in the cosmos. And Lupus was struck by a bolt of lightning that was shaped like an arrow, right? And they even related to like these gods being here upon Earth, and Cern and Lupus were hunting in the forest while during the spring equinox, and they're hunting a deer, right? And Lupus is struck by a bolt of lightning that was shaped like an arrow, and he dies. And then the next time the sun rises, he rises with it from the underworld as the new sun god, right? The new sun. And when his brother Lupo, or Lupus, who is the stag god, learns that his brother died, his brother basically, Cern, became resurrected and became literally god of this world. And he reigns, basically right here on Earth. So when Lupus was destroyed by this bolt of lightning, the next morning, when Cern realizes this, he becomes god of this world, and he reigns on this place on Earth. He takes over because of the death of his brother, who was struck by this bolt of lightning that was shaped like an arrow. Cern rises and becomes god of this world. Cern becomes god of this world, and he reigns here on Earth afterwards. And then there's this whole tale how like the only physical remnants of his brother Lupus was a skin, a wolf skin, and it was found in the forest by a human, another hunter, or some other guy, and it basically gave men the power to transform into dogs and the power to shapeshift into wolves. And it led for a race of dog-like humanoids or cynocephaly, right? And even as the DNA got watered down, it became shamans that can transform into wolf-like creatures, right? And they even say like the first men was to wear this lupus pelt or skin, became a priest of the luperci or lupercus, which was a society like a secret society called the luperci or luperci or luperci. You know, you could pronounce it different ways, but these are like similar to what they call there's another name for some of them. I forget it now. What's the other name for I think it starts with an N too. I forget it now, but it'll come back to me. There's another name that's associated with the Neuroi. That's what it is. Neuroi. The Neuroi are these sort of like shape-shifting shaman, dog shape-shifting shaman, you know, which is very, very interesting. And in occult, I guess you could say, symbolism, lupus and Cern represent lupus represents the winter and the fall time, and Kern represents the spring and the summertime, right? And the waxing and waning the forces of nature, the light and the dark of nature, right? So this is very interesting, and you know, there's a tale of the nine that's associated with all of this. That's very interesting. And you know, there's also something that needs to be re-examined, is that there's also a very interesting story that talks about this this sort of like a time where humanity was going through a great sorrow, and the wolf god, or if you want to call them lupus or whatever, Anubis, or you know, there's all different names for these wolf beings that are in history. They set him on like a mission, a journey, and he had to go through these 12 labors, and some of them are very interesting because they're like prophetic sort of tales that have been passed down, but they're encoded with some truth that needs to be re-examined. Even some of the tales of the Lupercus and what he has to do, and these 12 labors that he has to go through. They talk about how he has to carry it's sort of like a celestial mission through the stars that has to do with the constellations and everything else. And he talks about how he has to carry the sacred ram, and set him among the stars. He has to purify the hide of the sacred white bull. And of course, these sacred white bulls and rams are not like the animals that you're talking about here on Earth. They are literal celestial bodies. They are literal higher information that most people cannot even fathom. And he talks about they have to purify the hide of the sacred white bull. They have to tame the twin serpents of Teramo. You know, they have to free the sacred lion. Just things like this, like carrying off the great sea crab to the western horizon. These are some of the missions that he has to go on. And they even talk about the sacred tales of one of the the ways the nine became overseers of humanity or watchers. And even in every culture, even in the Bible, we have higher dimensional spiritual beings, millions of them, so many of them you can't even fathom. Even in the Bible, we have the Ophanim, the Seraphim, the Cherubim, right? And the higher ranking ones, the ones with higher, if you want to say, ascension, maybe to a higher dimension even, they take on certain abilities, and even what they would sit upon certain thrones within the celestial realms, within the sky, right? So these quote-unquote thrones were able, so they could be anywhere at any time. There were these higher celestial chairs, if you want to say, that they would sit in, so they can tap into the thoughts of anybody in the universe. They can be anywhere at any time. They can watch over all spiritual energy, and certain ones of these nine have certain zones in the universe that they oversee and watch over all stargates, all spiritual information, all sort of celestial relay of information between higher beings and lower beings, and the gateways between them all. They oversee. These are, even in ancient astrology, they would talk about the harmony of spheres, right? Even in ancient Italian mysticism, we have these 9 crystal circles that the gods reside in, right? That they talk about. And the Milky Way being the river of Tana, right? And that's the divine abode of the gods. And this is just a one spot of our soul, one soul station on our journey through Aster, right? And they talk about this in ancient Tuscan and ancient Etruscan and ancient Italian mysticism, and even in the work of Dr. Puharich and Peter Hurkos and Uri Geller and Dr. D.G. Vinod, a Hindu mystic or an Indian mystic that had no prior experience with telepathy and channeling, have all tapped into these 9. Even the Greeks, they have 9 muses, 9 gods. One of them even being Urania, or the stars, right? This is very, very interesting information, and there's a very interesting tale of one of the 9 ancient Tuscan quote-unquote gods or higher beings called Raven or Ravin. This is a bird-like humanoid higher being that is the messenger between information from the quote-unquote gods or higher dimensions until humanity, into Earth. And there's an interesting story, even how he has to dive into the pools of Umbria, into this black, never-ending deep pool, like a black hole. And it's a deep, black, liquidy water of primordial ooze that he has to dive into and find at the bottom this sort of crystally sphere-like pearl that is the self-analyzing free will technology that makes somebody have knowledge, true knowledge of self, and true higher knowledge of self. And for him to be able to communicate with humanity, he had to dive into this pool of Umbria, into the dark pool of shadows, into this dark, liquidy, never-ending pool to get this pearl type thing, this sphere, this glowing pearl crystal that was like a self-prophesizing, where you get a true look at who you really are through this technology. And when he came back up, he was a white bird-like being. And when he came back up from this pool, he was jet black and shiny. Forever, he was now this silky black color. This is how they say even the raven gets their black color. And ravens are messenger representatives of this higher being on this planet. And he was forever seen also as a messenger between the realms, and the gods never fully trusted him, right? So some of these messages are trickster messages as well. This is why they're even seen as tricksters. And this is why also the raven collects trinkets and different things like this. Now, this is more than just a myth, right? This is more than just a myth. This is actual history that's given some sort of like mythology, right? That's given some sort of like way of taking it down, you know. And it's talked about in all civilizations, all religions in different ways. It's very interesting, and I will be going into the much longer story on Soul Station Radio, and even on Truth Frequency Radio. We're going to be discussing this a little bit, because there's a much longer story that goes along with this, even with the different abodes of the sky, and more information that I pulled out while basically learning my ancient traditions and learning some of the ancient history of my ancestors. More was revealed to me, and more even added on. So I think it's very interesting, and this is some of the most intriguing information that we can ever talk about on this planet. And you could see right here, we are in a magical area. This is actually, for those that are new to my channel, I've been here before. This is actually the area where Benedict Arnold met in the dead of night on September 21st, 1780. Benedict Arnold, the traitor, and John Andre, the spy, met at the water's edge where the gun points to plot the fall of America's freedom. And the gun that they're talking about is this cannon. So actually, the point where they met was further up, across. It isn't actually right. I've been at that spot before, and I brought people on the video to that spot. It's a little further up before, and I've gotten a very interesting vision one time at this spot, but it was more over here on the beach, where I saw what looked like a Hispanic girl that was no longer alive right now. This was like some sort of spirit type energy. I saw a Hispanic girl, who I thought was real at first. And I got, you know, for those that don't believe me, I got wet. I had to go home wet and tell my mother. My mother was alive at the time. You know, what had happened to me. She thought I was on drugs. She was like, did you start doing drugs again? I'm like, no. Because at the time, like, you know, I was a teenager, and in my early 20s, I was, you know, partying and messing around and doing a lot of stupid stuff. But this happened when I was about, I don't know, it was around 2009, where my mom had already had cancer for about a year, and I was driving every day from where I was living a little bit more upstate, in the house that I lived in, me and my old relationship. We were a little bit more upstate from here. I was driving down every day to help my mom. You know, she was going through chemo and things like that. So sometimes during, like, when I would go out for lunch or whatever and drive around, because my friends live right around here, this is like only like half a mile from my mom's house, I would come out over here on the beach and just chill out for a few minutes and get a breather, because I was going through a lot. My mom was the closest person to me ever, right? So I was already like emotionally like stimulated and going through some stuff. So I was literally standing right here on the side, right here, like, and at certain times of the year, like right now, you're not supposed to go on the beach, like literally over there. So I was right here, like on the side here where this park is, like we're here, and I saw a woman that was like barefoot, standing on a Hispanic girl. She probably looked about 18, 19, or early 20s, standing on the shore right here. And she looked at me real quick, never said a word, but she glanced over at me, and then glanced at the water and stared at the water for about 15, 20 seconds, and then walked right into the water until I could no longer see her head. And I went out there, like about to right here. I swam out there in the stupid dirty water in the Hudson River, and she was not there. I couldn't find her. And I even freaking called the Haverstraw police, and they couldn't find the body. And they had to get, they had like a certain raft. Firehouse had a certain rescue thing. Like everything came here, and I made a big scene, and there was nobody there. So it's kind of dramatizing to me. I don't really talk about it much, but I think it was the vision of somebody that committed suicide here maybe months long ago. So I never talked about it on the radio before. I have mentioned it in a video here before, but it's not something I really like to discuss or anything like that. But it was pretty traumatizing. And it was like, you know, my mom, even though my mom ended up dying in 2011, which was like 2 years later, at the time I was worried about my mom dying. And my mom was really sick. I was going through stuff, and it was like, it was really intense. And I tapped into like that energy, and it was really intense. And at the same time, like, I had certain friends that died around that time as well. So it was really no, it wasn't Beth. Beth is more like for those that don't know, I don't know if you could call it me from another timeline, me from another life, or whatever. But I've had certain with a Native American girl that I felt like was me, that did to me somehow, or my spirit. And it's happened a few times in my life. Sometimes it's even like in my mind where I see her, or in a dream. And she called herself Beth to me, and she looks like Native American, early teenager, teen. And what's interesting though is when I was younger, I saw her looking a little bit younger, and later on when I saw her, it looked like she was a little bit older, but the same energy. Oh wait, they're going right on the beach right now, these people, even though there's a sign not to. Somebody left their Little League helmet here. It's early morning too, so oh no, that's a bike helmet. Somebody left their bike helmet or something. I ain't touching. But this is a very interesting area, and like I said, this is the same area where a lot of history went down, where Benedict Arnold met Major Andre, and Major Andre actually was sentenced to death because of this, and they lynched him. They hung him from a tree about 9 miles up that road in Nyack, near the Tappan Zee Bridge. They hung him outside the courthouse in Nyack, Major Andre. So I'm not sure if Benedict Arnold was sentenced to death or anything like that, but who knows the true story really? Because when I had long ago, when I was in this, when I would come to this area and first started getting into the history of it, I had certain intuitions that came to me about it, and maybe Benedict Arnold was painted in the wrong light. That's some of the feeling that I had. I don't know. We don't know the true story. Think about it. People can't even get stories straight from 5 years ago, let alone hundreds of years ago. So who knows? He could have pissed off the wrong people and got set up. Or he could have had something that he was really fighting for that we were doing wrong. Who knows? Usually the winners tell the story, right? Well, even area, this area is right, and the video I did yesterday, I talked about it before I closed. This area, the Hudson Valley, right here along the Hudson River, is right where the Russians first were sending their signal, starting and they did it 200 years after the birth of our country, on the day, July 4th, 1976, to unleash this war, to unleash a hell upon earth, the signal of ELF waves. and they can tune them to any kind of frequency. They could be higher frequencies that can be helpful to humanity, or they could be ELF, lower frequencies that could really hurt humanity. And they were sending it down through Canada, right down here through New York, through the Hudson Valley, and it unleashed a hell upon the earth. Now all superpowers have this, extremely low frequency, yes, ELF. And this is actually a Tesla. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, really, really. That helps out so much. You have no idea. And you guys you could research it. I'm not making this up. July 4th, 1976, the Russians unleashed this hell upon our Earth, on our planet. And this signal is a quote-unquote Tesla signal. It's Tesla's technology that he was trying to sell to the government not long before he died. And they were saying, oh, you're crazy. He was saying, give me a couple of $1 million. I can make it in a few months. And they told him no. And they waited for him to die. And they got all of his stuff after he died. And they made this, and by the 1970s, the Russians were beaming it across the planet. And it went right, and some of it went right through the Hudson Valley. And this is when we even started getting UFO activity here. And other dimensions and inner Earth became interested in what was being beamed across the planet. And these same higher beings will never let nuclear war happen on this planet. They will never let it happen. And they are overseeing our technology, if people don't realize this. And the 9, if you want to call them the 9, are the ones directing what's going on this planet. So it's maybe a higher agenda to it all, but obviously what's going on is not beneficial to our planet. And just like us, all higher beings have free will. They can make their own choices, right? And even God talks about it in the Bible, how angels who are under God's command, right? You want to call them angels, you want to call them higher beings, you want to call them spiritual creatures, you want to call them extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them. Even the watchers, the Grigori, the seraphim, right? The cherubim, they all can make their decisions. Some of them chose to disobey God, and some of them chose to come upon this planet, right? And it's written in all our most sacred religious texts. This is not just me rambling to and making things up. Some people want to say, what is this guy talking about? Well, I am talking about over 30 years of research and experiences in this one incarnation. And I've been incarnated multiple times to try to help the mission on this planet. All of us have. And some of us has been disconnected, have been given the amnesia that we are born and breathe in at the moment of birth. And some of us have awakened some of it. Some of us are remembering some of it. And some people still can't even fathom. And their only reality is what they see on TV and what they see, what kind of material goods they have, what kind of material money they have. Thank you so much, Jahara. Oh, thank you, really, really. You guys are amazing. You guys know this is what one of my missions is to try to help with the negative energy on the planet. It's so hard, even trying to hold down a regular life, because my own anger, my own emotions still flare up within myself, right? My own frustrations. All of us should have at least the right amount of money, since this society is going to be where we are literally losing more able to have more, our free will is being restricted. Like we're Literal, our choices are being more restricted and restricted every day. And if you're gonna have some side of society where we actually have to pay money to eat, pay money to survive, pay money to have shelter, pay taxes to have a little bit of land, pay all of this, everyone should have at least enough amount of money for them to have enough food for their family and a home for their family. And the fact that people do not, and that people are allowed to just conquer and lie and cheat and steal to inflate their bank accounts, when meanwhile some of the richest people and spiritual people and most balanced people on the planet are some of the poorest. You see what kind of society that we are in, right? Oh, Blue Mahogany Queen, thank you. Oh my God, you're so amazing. You guys are beautiful. All of you are beautiful inside and out. Yeah, they can enter. Oh yeah, any questions? I'm sorry if I hadn't seen your guys' questions. I was talking here. Any yes, you can hear these frequencies, and your body can be calibrated to notice any sort of different frequencies, even these lower vibrational frequencies and signals. In fact, the Russians and Chinese and even the United States, all of us, the government, have had secret programs. What was the program that the Russians did? I think it was called Project Woodpecker, if you guys want to look it up. That was the 1976 signal, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong there. I think it was called Project Woodpecker. But there have been intuitive, psychics, clairvoyants, whatever you want to call it, regular normal humans that have, the clairvoyant abilities like we all have. Just some people haven't tuned into it appropriately, or something hasn't triggered it, some sort of, and sometimes unfortunately it's trauma that triggers it. Well, certain quote-unquote clairvoyants have been calibrated to test for these signals and find these signals, and government has been doing programs on this before. They've done programs on this before, and sometimes they were calibrated while using the amarita mushroom and different things like this, which I have experience with. This is very interesting information, and yes, we can be calibrated to feel these signals, and to sense the difference between what's a harmful signal and what's a higher frequency that's beneficial and that could actually bring us to a light body. There's 144,000 harmonic frequencies that can bring us to a higher being, and this can be beamed across the planet to bring us into a higher existence. And we know it, military knows it, those in the know that. Instead, they are beaming these extremely low frequencies around the planet. Yeah, well, like Stephen is saying, the woodpecker is not being used today no more, but they have other superpowers. Russia just has another thing that they're using now. The United States uses this technology. HARP uses this technology. People don't talk about it no more, but like they're using it openly. But there's a battle over this, a war going on over this, through superpowers. So, and they're battling this. There's certain areas that you can form a circle where those inside the circle are having beneficial frequencies to them, but those outside the circle are getting damaging ELF frequencies, right? So this is what's happening on our planet. This is what's going on, and it's through weather control, weather manipulation, and all of that, and frequency control. So what's up? Let's see. Yeah, you know, even what is our brain waves are like 8 hertz or something like that, right? So even the the Great Pyramid was made to like sort of like, I think it was at 7.8 something hertz, which was made to sort of like calibrate the 8 hertz frequency of humanity. So people don't even realize that this is a soul machine, a place of spiritual initiation, a place of harmonic resonance of to the body. You guys are amazing today. This ended up being an amazing broadcast, and this is the beginning of Soul Station Radio. You know, for those that don't understand when I'm saying Soul Station, yeah, the Earth 7.8. That's what I was saying. Yeah, it's like 7.82 or something like that, right? So our soul goes through missions. You know, part of our rebirth on this planet, part of our incarnation on this planet, I feel are specific missions to help with this planet, right? With the species of humanity, to bring them back to a higher existence, right? And this is because their soul has fallen. You know, the species has fallen, right? And we have come back here for a prearranged mission, a soul contract, right? And for us to fulfill the soul contract is for us to basically have no more time anymore, right? Where we basically go through eternity afterwards, where our soul exists in a higher dimension, right? A higher force, a higher knowing, a higher purpose, right? Where we basically help keep the harmonic balance of that higher purpose. Like we are all part of one higher force, right? And this is all about harmonic frequencies. It's all about that. While like in the Sophia, like in the Nag Hammadi and the Gnostics form, yeah, I guess it's similar to like the Gnostics form of Sophia or Sophia. You know, the Hebrews even call it Shekinah. And we are, you know, we come into this realm. We are a digital code. Our DNA is made up of digital codes. That's how we exist into this realm. We are sent here, agreeing to come here. Most people can't fathom the spots our soul, the stations our soul goes through before it's able to incarnate, before it's able to transcend to a higher dimension. Our soul goes through stations throughout galaxies and all different soul stations, and they're bathed within the quasars, purified at different soul stations, different levels of purification, different levels of self-knowing and self-realization. One of these soul stations is the Sombrero Galaxy. And we're going to be talking and going into all of this on Soul Station Radio. Guys, thank you for joining me this morning. 45 minutes. It's really powerful. Thank you for everybody who donated. You're truly amazing. And thank you for being, you know, contributing. It helps me being able to do this more often. and I hope it was a decent video. I tried staying still for the video so I wasn't moving around too much. Hopefully there wasn't a lot of pixels. I notice a lot of times I walk around and I pace or move around sometimes because it helps me get rid of the negative chatter that I can feel coming off of just through the phone, people in the chat room. Not that you guys are negative, but I just pick up chatter sometimes. I could feel things, energies. So I noticed that it's a bad quality video if I'm moving around a lot, especially with pixels. So I'm trying to hold the camera still and give a good scenery better this time. I also my buddy Larry sent me an unlimited power supply, so even though it's heavy, I don't know if I could bring it and use it for my phone, but I have it for in case the power goes out or whatever for my computer. So we're gonna be getting a new phone eventually soon too, and better technology, because I really want to bring better quality videos as well. And I have to learn how to edit videos. I don't really use computer much. I never really liked them that much, but unfortunately we have to, so we can connect to people all over the world. But thank you everybody once again. Thank you everybody for donating, and we'll see you at Stoll Station Radio later tonight. Spiral out.